Justice Olukaide Ariwola has been sworn in as the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria following the resignation of Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad on health grounds. President Muhammadu Buhari performed the honors at a brief ceremony at the council chambers of State House in Abuja. Kendi Amodu has that packaged.
The nation woke up to reports on Monday morning that Justice Tanko Muhammad had resigned from his position as Chief Justice of Nigeria on health grounds. After some initial doubts, the former CJN Special Assistant on Media, Ahuraka Issa, confirmed the development. The mantle has fallen swiftly on Justice Olukaide Ariwola, who is the next most senior judge. Justice Ariwola was later sworn in the afternoon as acting Chief Justice of Nigeria by President Muhammadu Buhari, who applauded the Nigerian judiciary under the leadership of the former CJN.
CJN Tanko dealt firmly with the issue of reckless and indiscriminate grant of ex parte orders that was assuming serious dimensions. History will be kind to Justice Tanko Muhammad for his modest contributions to Nigeria's judiciary, the strengthening of our democracy, and national development.
He also hints of the challenges ahead.
Our nation is approaching a critical general election in 2023. The judiciary must not do anything to fail the ordinary people of Nigeria, which may make them lose confidence in the judiciary.
The new acting Chief Justice is aware of the huge responsibilities he has to bear.
What Nigerians expect from me is to comply, preserve and abide and protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But he is quick to dismiss speculations that the former Chief Justice of Nigeria resigned because of controversy in the judiciary.
It was an internal memo of the court. It was not a petition. It was not a letter. It was addressed by the brother justices of the Chief Justice and presented to him, his lordship, directly. There were issues to be resolved amongst justices. Yeah, we've started resolving it.
Justice Ariwola was born on August 22, 1958, and was appointed a Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in 2011. He was a Justice of the Court of Appeal between 2005 and 2011, after having elevated from the State High Court of Oyo State. Justice Ariwola was first appointed a Judge of Superior Court of Record in Oyo State in 1992 from private legal practice. Before his elevation to the Supreme Court, he served as Justice of the Court of Appeal in Kaduna, Enugu, and Lagos divisions. From State House, Abuja, Kendi Amodu, Trust TV News.
Now, to get perspectives on this, we have in the studio Sunusi Musa, a legal practitioner, and he joins us to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us on the.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah. Well, now the resignation of the former CJN is coming amidst a lot of, circumstances that some people, in fact, the former CJN himself consider as, the judiciary's washing its dirty linens in the public, and so that's kind of embarrassing. But looking at the circumstances, trailing his resignation, what's your take on what's happening?
Well, for me, I think the press always wants to take issue of judiciary out of proportion. For whatever reason, somebody leaked an internal memo, like my lord, the acting Chief Justice said, to the public, which is very unfortunate anyway. But I think, like he said, they have started resolving it. But and I think we must, like the president has commended the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, we must commend him for realizing that it is good for him to go and take care of his health, because he has sacrificed a lot for the country. Probably some of the ill health challenges might have caused some of the things that had happened that made the brother justices to write the letter to him. But being what it may, all of them must be commended. Like the president has said, the former Chief Justice has served this country from magistrate to a lecturer, a Sharia Court of Appeal, Qadi to Court of Appeal, and to the Supreme Court. So I think he did his own part in making his mark, and we can only pray that he get well and he will have a happy retirement.
All right. His predecessor, Justice Walter Onogen, left office in very controversial circumstances.
Yeah.
And after that, he is also leaving office, albeit not so controversial.
Yeah.
He's leaving on health grounds.
Yeah.
But then it's coming shortly after a letter was leaked accusing him of certain things. Don't you think that this would have an impact on the general perception of the judiciary in the country?
Well, to some extent, I may agree with you because with the unfortunate thing that had happened with the way the former Chief Justice had departed, one would have wished that nothing like this happened. But, you know, sometimes there are a human nature in things that will happen one way or the other. But I think we must appreciate the fact that the reason for his resignation has really shown that not really much a case of an intentional misconduct, so to say. Definitely some health challenges might have made him not to put eyes on the way the managers of the Supreme Court were doing it that had led to the unfortunate letter.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Would like to bring in the former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ikeja branch, Onyekachi Ubani, to also give his own thoughts on this. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning.
So let's get your own take on the recent happenings as regards the change of guard, you know, for the judiciary.
To me, actually what happened. But before the resignation, there has been some level of weighty allegations bordering on financial impropriety and then even on the issue of their welfare, which are issues that need to be sorted out. And I'm very happy he's going to be there for at least 6 years if eventually he's confirmed as the substantive CJN of the country. So he is in a better position now to actually bring to bear those reforms. One, the slowness of the system is killing. Justice delayed. Clearly, is justice denied.
All right.
We're not getting the best in terms of quick dispensation of justice. Yes.
All right, so this morning we are seeing on the front pages of our papers that the NBA is saying that it's not enough to resign. There should be some kind of probe, investigation into the allegations of financial impropriety. So do you think that there's a need for that?
Again, was refused certain properties that he owns personally. And there was non-disclosure, and it was alleged it's been open debate that most of the heads of the actually mismanaging the judiciary. In as much as we are funding is an issue, and underfunded years that have actually killed the sector. But now there has been an allocation. There is an allocation, and we are not getting, development in terms of structures at the other level, and then even with. So the issue now is that we must set a standard. It's happening all over. The chief judges are also, autocracy and are supposed to be meant for judicial development. So this may likely lead to some we are all clamoring for the management of it, because the Attorney General raised that issue. That look, there has been some level of agreement, but we are not getting transparent. This may be the opportunity for us to look at the federal and state level in order to transparency at that level too. It's very important.
Okay. All right. Now, let me come back to the studio to get Sunusi's own thoughts. The president, a couple of times, have raised concern about, the judiciary, how it has either slowed the pace of justice or has, crippled his plan to deal with corruption in Nigeria and all of that. Do you agree that there's need for some kind of house cleaning in the judiciary with the new CJN coming on board?
Well, actually, I tend not to agree with the fact that the judiciary is slowing the fight against corruption. Actually, with all respect, I don't agree with that, because look, with the more especially the executive arm of government, most of the time, often do things haphazardly. And they think that once they arraign somebody before a court of law, the court must convict that person, irrespective of how they have conducted the investigation and irrespective of what type of evidence they bring. With all respect, that is not the way it works. And in fact, is to guard against that the judiciary is put in place. That when the executive accuses somebody of any wrongdoing, he must have his day where he will prove his innocence.
But with regards to the issue of financial impropriety here.
You talk about saying that slowing down the issue of corruption. I remember that policy from my Lord Justice Onehin up to now is in place. The Supreme Court dedicated specifically a day for hearing corruption cases. And that is one of the reasons why that you now see that all the corruption cases that goes to the Supreme Court are being heard expeditiously. So I can't see how that you can't say that you now accuse the judiciary when the head of the judiciary gave directive. He said all the High Court, the Court of Appeal, please give all corruption cases expeditiously.
Yeah, so but to what effect will that directive be if there's high level of corruption in the system, if judges are compromising standards and the moral obligation on them, going by what your
let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. You see, it is easy for a lawyer to sit and maybe accuse a judge of wrongdoing, or it is easy for the public to sit and accuse judges of wrongdoing. I'm not saying there are no bad judges. No, but the judges are product of this society. And if me and you are not ready to do the right thing, it is the same society that these judges
But the judges are supposed to uphold the law, isn't it?
Because
that's why they have a
let me
bigger
tell you one thing.
responsibility.
Yes, unless we realize that the judges have a bigger responsibility, one, we must get serious about the appointment process of the judges and justices. It has to be transparent, and it must be on fit and proper people that are appointed there. But then, do we want that? Because going by our actions, the type of people we want to promote as judges, and when you say that there is corruption in the judiciary, to the best of my knowledge, the judicial officers have no any immunity. They are not all the anti-corruption agencies and the police have the power to check the books of the judiciary. The National Assembly exercise supervisory role over the judiciary, not in the conduct of their judicial powers, but in the administrative process of the judiciary and how they manage the fund in the running the judiciary. So if you think there is corruption there, what stops the investigative agency from carrying out investigation? What stops the National Assembly from, in the exercise of their supervisory role, oversight function, to check how the money of the judiciary is being spent? This, no, you see, it's easy for us to sit and say, you are corrupt. Okay. While I have the responsibility to tell you, I refuse to do. I think we should bring in
Mr. Ubani.
Yes.
Mr. Ubani, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There's, with all these allegations of corruption and all of that around the judiciary is supposed to be the last hope of the common man. How much house cleaning is the judiciary going to put in place or do at this point to restore confidence of the people in the judiciary, so that we don't get to a point where people begin to take laws into their hands because they think that, oh, even the judiciary, they are not any better?
That's what we are saying. Kind of leadership that should emerge at that arm of government. Restoration of confidence is key. The moment the sector they begin to have recourse to taking laws they don't have any confidence in. On administration of justice general, that's the Nigerian Bar Association, and it was in that particular place that it involved all the stakeholders, the judge, and members of the public. Funding was part of the discussion that the judiciary needs funding for them to fulfill their role. That was granted, that was taken, that we are having underfunding of the. Second issue is that, okay, even with some level of improvement in allocation of budget to the judiciary, also must try as much as possible accountable. And they should give account of what they have been gotten under the Attorney General. And that has not been happening with judiciary. That they are finding thorns. They are opening of their books. They are finding it difficult for them to even report necessary committees that are in charge of the judiciary. That are not returning even account of what they have done with the one that have been given to. And we need to probably drive this through, that there has been some level of improvement. Then a corresponding duty also to make sure that they are very transparent and accountable, because that remains the fountain of justice. If the fountain of justice is polluted, then there will be a problem for us. So that issue of transparency is key. In fact, some people are suggesting that we should get the judges off the issue of management of the funds, whenever it comes to the judiciary, that there should be a team of probably non-partisan individuals, or administrative staff within the judiciary that can manage the disbursement of funds so that ensuring transparency and accountability. And I agree. So it would not be nice for us to be accusing our judges of corruption. It makes sense of the entire these judges who are in the role of a dispensing justice being accused of corruption. If they do that, then people will lose control. So we must begin to now manage or have a structure of people that can manage the resources of the judiciary to avoid our judicial officers being directly involved, so that they can't probably name as being corrupt, I mean, it's an ongoing conversation. We must look for a way to actually ensure and ensure transparency, even with the resources that are being managed by the judiciary.
Thank you so much, Onyekachi Ubani, former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
He is holding his ground. But, one really wonders whether the judiciary itself is open to the kind of, record scrutiny that you were talking about earlier. I recall that some time ago we had, the country went abuzz when certain judges were arrested for questioning by the EFCC and all of that. And a lot of people pointed holes in that. They said that, the judges shouldn't be arrested in such a manner. Issues of disciplinary measures should be that of the NJC and the rest of them. So what's the, way of dealing with this? If you look at the fact that the NJC is headed by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, so how do you carry out?
I think there are two issues that we are mixing here. We have to differentiate the judges as judicial officers and things that the misconduct they might have committed in the course of their judicial duties, and the finances of the judiciary, which has nothing to do with your duty as a judicial officer. It's like any other ministry where they run the bureaucracy and money is spent. I know in the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal and all the courts, the federal courts, there are auditors from the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation that do audit the account. They have their auditors. I know the National Assembly have a public account committee that checks the books of all the parastatals, financial books of all the government agencies, including the judiciary. I know that there is a committee in both Senate and House of Representatives, and in all the state houses of assembly, that exercise oversight function over.
But you just heard Onyekachi there saying that it's not been forthcoming.
I think me and him we are not talking of different things. We are on the same page. We are on the same page. Look, okay, I agreed that there is mismanagement of funds, or there is lack of accountability on how the fund it is being spent. I mean, it is not. It doesn't lie in the mouth of Attorney General, with all respect, to come out and say that they don't know how the money is being spent. For instance, that he's the Attorney General of the Federation. The prosecuting agencies, investigative and prosecuting agencies work under his instructions. He can instruct them to carry out an investigation, which doesn't require any arrest. It's just for them to check the book. He can request.
Yes, but in the process of investigation, there will be need for questioning.
Of course, who do you question? In the management of the fund, the only person that you can say is involved, because I know the accounting officers of the court are the chief registrars, not the chief judge or not the head of court. But you get approval from him. He's the only one that you can say you question. But other judges, where do they come in management of the fund of the judiciary? They don't. Okay. So we must differentiate between the duty of the judicial officers and the administrative work of the courts. Because up to now, who presides
over some of this? Who presides over the operations of the courts, for instance?
It is the head of court. Not all the judges or the justices.
Okay.
It is the head of court. But what I'm trying to tell you is that, like me and my learned friend there, we can say, okay, there is need for an independent body to check the books of the judiciary.
Okay.
But the Attorney General cannot say that, because the Attorney General is part of the government, and the government have all the apparatus at their disposal to check the book of the judiciary. You then need to go into the issue of arresting a judge without finishing your investigation. And after all, what they are saying, nobody says you cannot arrest the chief registrar. Nobody says you cannot arrest the director of finance. Or what they are saying, if there are issues that relates to his duty as a judicial officer, we must make, it does not mean that if today that, God forbid, a judge is seen committing murder, he cannot be arrested and be prosecuted. No, that is what they are saying. Where you accuse a judicial officer of misconduct in the course of his function as a judicial officer,
okay,
then the National Judicial Council must first exercise its disciplinary power over him before you prosecute him. But where you accuse him of doing things that has nothing to do with his duty as judicial officer, is not within the boundaries of National Judicial Council. When you accuse, for instance, a head of court of mismanagement of fund of the court, that has nothing to do with his duty as a judicial officer. It is his duty as an administrative officer. Oh. But where you accuse a judge of collecting bribe to dispense justice or to give judgment which may not necessarily dispense with justice, then that is a misconduct which is corruption associated with his office as judicial officer. Then allow the National Judicial Council to do away with him, and now you prosecute him.
Okay, Mr. Sunusi, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
But I noticed that we keep focusing on just financial misconduct and all of that. There are other allegations, judges giving conflicting judgments, and in this case, like the CJN, he was accused of not holding meetings, he was accused of not carrying his people along. I want to believe that those are part of his duties as a judicial officer. So where do we go from here?
When you said judges are giving conflicting decisions.
Judgments.
Judgments, that is decision. It is worrisome to all of us. For instance, more especially when you have a panel of the same judicial officers that give two judgments that conflict with one another. But then there is no way, like we always say, each case is an authority on its own. Hardly you find two cases that are similar. For instance, I'm not saying there are no conflicting decisions, because I know many of them, which has made it impossible now for somebody to force to really, with precision, advise client on the possibility of the come out of his case because of the position of the law. But it's worrisome because, one, maybe lack of the synergy you talk about, maybe the number of the, if now the Court of Appeal have about, or getting to about 100 justices or 80 or thereabout, that are, I mean, scattered all over the country. That it's just possible you may have a case, one that has been taken in Kano and another one taken in Lagos with some similar facts, and they may arrive at different decision. But then, like he said, it is an issue of us streamlining the Supreme Court, or rather the Court of Appeal. We are running a federation, but we have a unitary judiciary. That is no good for the system.
All right, just in 1 minute, I'll give you that time to tell us, how are you confident about the new CJN?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I have confidence in him. He's a very, very upright person, religious, and in the discharge of his duties, everybody knows that Justice Ariola to be a very, very upright person. We expect nothing less than a transparent system, and definitely with the time, the number of years he has to be on the to be there, that is about 6 years if he's eventually appointed as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, which I pray he will be appointed. Definitely he will be able to bring some justice, and this is one of the things that I've been advocating actually, that we have people sitting at head of court at least for 5 years.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sunusi Musa, lawyer, I believe based in Abuja.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us on Daybreak, for sharing your perspective.